Okay, here's the translation with cultural adaptations, keeping the original content, format, and punctuation. I was sitting in the dining room, alone, my cell phone trembling in my hands as tears fell onto the illuminated screen. I had just seen the photo, a radiant, happy, celebratory image. My son Gabriel, his wife Fernanda, and at the center of it all, the mother-in-law, with the caption that pierced my soul like a sharp blade. Happy birthday to the woman who taught me what a mother's love truly is. You're my real mom, Celia. Thank you for everything. My heart stopped. I reread those words dozens of times, as if I might be misinterpreting them, as if there was some typo, some confusion. But there wasn't. There was my son, the boy I carried in my womb for 9 months, whom I nursed until I bled, whom I held during feverish nights, publicly declaring that another woman was his real mother. And me, he simply didn't exist. I scrolled through his feed, desperate, searching for me. Nothing, no photo of me, no mention, no shared memory. He had been completely erased, deleted, as if 32 years of absolute dedication had never happened. My name is Helen, I'm 56 years old, and I've always been proud of being a present, dedicated, sometimes even excessive mother. He raised Gabriel alone since he was 4 years old, when my husband left us for a coworker 20 years younger. He remembered as if it were yesterday the day Fernando simply packed his bags and said he couldn't stand that mediocre life anymore, that he deserved to be happy, as if my son and I were obstacles to his happiness. He stood there at the front door, holding Gabriel's hand as we watched his father's car disappear around the corner. My son cried for weeks. He asked why Daddy didn't love him anymore, why he had left. I had no answers, just hugs and promises that I would never, ever abandon him, that I kept that promise with every fiber of my being. He worked 2 jobs for years. During the day, I was a secretary at a medical clinic. At night, after putting Gabriel to bed, he baked cakes and savory snacks to order in our small kitchen. He slept 4, sometimes 3 hours a night. My hands became callous from kneading dough. My back ached permanently from standing so much, but I didn't care. Gabriel needed a better future than my past. He gave up everything for him. My dreams of studying business administration were kept in a dusty drawer, along with the acceptance letters I could never afford. My relationship with Edward, a kind man who worked at the clinic with me and wanted to get married, ended because Gabriel, then a teenager, said he wouldn't accept a stranger in our house. He chose my son. I always chose my son. When he wanted to study engineering at an expensive private university, he sold the only asset I had left, the car my mother had left me as inheritance. I took 3 buses a day for 4 years, so he wouldn't have to work and could dedicate himself to his studies. When I graduated, he cried with pride to see him in his gown, the first in the family with a college degree. He hugged me that day and said, "Mom, all this is thanks to you. I love you more than anything." I kept those words like a treasure. I thought they would be eternal. Gabriel met Fernanda at work, 2 years after graduation. From the first day, he brought her to dinner at home. We realized something was wrong. She looked at our simple apartment with a poorly disguised air of disdain. She commented on the old curtains, the mismatched dishes, the worn-out sofa. He tried to laugh and say that those pieces of furniture had a history, that each piece represented an achievement. She just smiled coldly and changed the subject. But it was Celia, Fernanda's mother, who became the real problem. An impeccably dressed woman, with glittering jewelry and an air of superiority that filled any room. She came from a family of entrepreneurs and made that clear in every sentence, in every gesture. The first time we met, at a lunch that Fernanda organized to integrate the families, Celia looked me up and down and asked what area I worked in professionally. When I replied that I was a secretary, she raised an eyebrow and said, "Oh, how practical." The tone said it all. I was inferior,
Simple.
unworthy of being part of that circle. The wedding took place in grand style, in an elegant club that I could never afford. Celia took control of everything: the buffet, the decoration, the guest list. He tried to offer my opinion on some choices. After all, it was my only son getting married, but I was subtly pushed away from every decision. "Let me handle it, Helen. You already have so much work," she said with a smile that never reached her eyes. On the day of the ceremony, he wore the nicest dress he could find, buying at a department store. When I arrived at the hall, I heard a whispered comment from one of Fernanda's aunts, who think she has no sense of elegance. He pretended not to hear. He smiled for the photos. He danced with my son. But inside, something started to fall apart. In the following months, Gabriel's visits became more and more spaced out. He used to come every week. We would order pizza, watch bad movies, and laugh at inside jokes that only we understood. After the wedding, the visits became bi-weekly, then monthly. The calls became brief, mechanical. "Hey, Mom, how are you? I'm running. I'll talk to you later." And we never talked later. He saw his new life on social media: dinners at fancy restaurants, trips to resorts, parties at wealthy friends' houses. And always, always, Donna Celia was there. In the comments, in the photos, being praised, being loved. One day, I tried to talk to Gabriel about it. He called and asked if everything was okay, if he had done something wrong. A sigh on the other end of the line, that tired sigh of someone being bothered. "Mom, you need to stop being so needy. I have my life now. I have responsibilities." Fernanda always comments that you call too much, that you call too much, that you're always demanding attention. It felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Needy, me, who sacrificed everything, was needy for wanting to talk to my son. He tried to explain, but they had already hung up. That was the last real call we had before the day of the photo. Before the day I found out that I had been completely erased from his digital life, and maybe from his real life too. I tried to understand what had happened. I remortgaged through my memories looking for the exact moment I lost my son. Was it when I couldn't afford a luxurious graduation party for him? Was it when Donna Celia offered that imported car as a gift and I could only give a simple watch? Was it when I started to age and my calloused hands and tired face became embarrassing for his new social class? If you have also experienced something similar or know someone who has faced this type of rejection, know that you are not alone. Sign up here to receive more stories of overcoming and strength, because sometimes we need to know that other people have understood this pain to be able to move forward. For 3 weeks after seeing that photo, I couldn't eat properly. I lost 6 kilos. My coworker, Mariana, was worried and insisted that I seek help. That's when I met Dr. Beatriz, a psychologist who charged a social rate that I could afford. In our first session, I told her everything. The words came out mixed with tears, 30 years of devotion summarized in broken phrases and sobs. She listened to me in silence, and then said something that shocked me. "Elena, You need to understand that your son was not born ungrateful. He was taught to be. He didn't understand immediately. She continued, you are dealing with something called emotional alienation. When a person is constantly exposed to subtle messages that someone is not good enough, has no value, is a burden, eventually they start to believe it. Your daughter-in-law and your former mother-in-law have been manipulating Gabriel's perception of you. The following sessions were revealing and painful. He learned about toxic patterns, about emotional manipulation, about how people with financial resources sometimes use it as a tool for power and control. He began to see all the signs that I had ignored, the venomous comments disguised as concern, the progressive isolation, the systematic replacement of my presence with that of Donna Celia. It was Mariana who told me, one day, something that would change everything. She had a friend who worked as an event planner and had organized an event for Gabriel's company. At that event, Mariana discovered that Fernanda and Donna Celia openly spoke badly about me to Gabriel's colleagues, saying that I was problematic, unbalanced, that I was always interfering in the couple's life. According to the report, Donna Celia would have said, thank God my son-in-law has me now, because that woman only gets in the way. Poor Gabriel, what a terrible childhood he must have had. Terrible childhood. The words echoed in my head. The childhood in which he worked 16 hours a day so he could have new sneakers. The childhood in which he sold family jewelry so he could take an English course. The childhood in which he gave up everything so that he would never lack anything essential. Terrible. The angered, something I never allowed myself to feel completely, began to boil inside me. It wasn't destructive anger, but something transformative. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of dignity being rekindled. He didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve to be harassed, rewritten as a villain in the story of my own life. He decided I needed real answers. He needed to look into my son's eyes and has culturally adapted segment for English-speaking audience. Buying at masses. When I arrived at the hall, he overheard a snide remark from one of Bethany's aunts. Poor dear, she has absolutely no style. He tried to ignore it. He smiled for the pictures. He danced with my son. But inside, something started to crack. In the following months, Chris's visits became fewer and further between. He used to come every week. We'd order pizza, watch cheesy movies, and laugh at our inside jokes. After the wedding, the visits became bi-weekly, then monthly. The calls were short, impersonal. Hey mom, what's up? Gotta run. I'll call you later. And he never did. He saw his new life on social media, dinners at swanky restaurants, trips to resorts, parties at his wealthy friends' mansions. And always, Evelyn was there. In the comments, in the photos, being praised, being adored. One day, he tried to talk to Chris about it. He called and asked if he was okay, if I'd done something wrong. He sighed on the other end of the line, that weary sigh of someone being put upon. Mom, you need to stop being so clingy. I have a life now. I have responsibilities. Bethany's always saying, you call too much, that you're constantly fishing for attention. It felt like a punch to the gut. Clingy, me, who sacrificed everything, was clingy for wanting to talk to my son. I tried to explain, but it already hung up. That was the last real conversation we had before the picture day. Before the day I discovered I'd been completely wiped from his digital life, and maybe his real life too. I tried to understand what happened. I searched my memories, trying to pinpoint the moment I lost him. Was it when I couldn't afford a lavish graduation bash for him? Was it when Evelyn offered that fancy BMW as a gift and all I could give was a simple watch? Was it when I started getting older and my rough hands and tired face became embarrassing for his new social set? If you've ever been through something like this, or know someone who has, know that you're not alone. Sign up here for more stories of resilience and strength, because sometimes you just need to know others understand to keep going. For 3 weeks after seeing that photo, I couldn't eat a thing. He lost 15 pounds. My coworker Megan was worried sick and insisted I get help. That's when I found Dr. Miller, a therapist who offered sliding scale fees that I could manage. In our first session, I poured it all out. The words came out mixed with tears, 30 years of devotion, compressed into broken sentences and sobs. She listened in silence, and finally said something that shook me. Helena, your son wasn't born ungrateful. He was taught to be. I didn't get it at first. She continued, you're dealing with something called parental alienation, when someone is constantly exposed to subtle messages that someone isn't good enough, has no value, is a burden, eventually they start to believe it. Your daughter-in-law and her mother have been manipulating Chris's perception of you. The following sessions were revealing and gut-wrenching. He learned about toxic patterns, about emotional manipulation, about how wealthy people sometimes use their money as a tool for power and control. He started seeing all the signs I'd missed, the backhanded compliments disguised as concern, the gradual isolation, the systematic replacement of my presence with Evelyn's. It was Megan who told me something that would change everything. She had a friend who worked as a party planner and had organized an event for Chris's company. At that event, Megan found out that Bethany and Evelyn were openly trash-talking me to Chris's colleagues, saying I was high maintenance, a basket case, that I was always butting into their marriage. According to the friend, Evelyn had supposedly said, thank goodness my son-in-law has me now because that woman's just a hindrance. Poor Chris, he must have had a terrible childhood, terrible childhood, terrible childhood. The words echoed in my head. The childhood where I worked double shifts so I could have the latest Jordans. The childhood where I pawned my grandmother's jewelry so I could take up English. The childhood where I gave up everything so I'd never go without. Terribly. The angered, something I'd never let myself fully feel, began to simmer inside me. Not destructive anger, but transformative anger. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of dignity being reignited. I didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve to be erased, rewritten, as the villain in the story of my own life. I decided I needed real answers. I needed to look my son in the eye and, sonado a minha história, que você permitiu que eles me transformassem em uma caricatura para justificar a própria existência. Limpei as lágrimas e continuei. Eu não vou lutar por lugar que deveria ser meu por direito. Não vou implorar pelo amor do meu filho. Mas eu também não vou mais tolerar a falta de respeito. A partir de hoje, você está livre da obrigação de ter uma mãe pobre e inconveniente. Eu estou livre da dor de ter filho que me envergonha. Levantei-me, deixei o café intocado sobre a mesa e saí. Não olhei para trás. Amé who I am. Allow them to paint a dedicated woman as a nuisance, a loving mother as an intruder. Gabrielle was pale now, but still defensive. Celia has been helping us a lot, Mom. She helped us get this house, she pays for Fernanda's health insurance, she bought your love. He interrupted. The worst part is that you let her. You put a price on our history, Gabriel. And apparently that price was cheaper than I imagined. He stood up and grabbed my purse and looked confused, as if he expected me to beg, cry, humiliate myself. Mom, wait. No, Gabriel. He spent 3 weeks crying, not eating, wondering what I did wrong. He spent 3 weeks blaming myself, thinking I wasn't good enough. But I didn't do anything wrong. He was an exceptional mother within my means. And my means, even financially limited, gave you love, character, and opportunities. What you do with that now is your choice. Are you going to abandon me then? I asked, and for the first time, I saw a glimpse of fear in his eyes. No, my son, I will never abandon you, because I am not you. The words came out with deep sadness. But I'm going to step away. I'm going to give you the space you want so badly. And when one day you look back and realize what you've lost, when Miss Celia's bill comes due and you understand that both love doesn't sustain anyone in the difficult hours of the night, I will still be here, not because you deserve it, but because that's the kind of mother I am. He left that coffee shop with my head held high, even with my heart broken. He didn't follow me, didn't call, didn't text, and somehow that freed me. In the following months, he focused on myself for the first time in decades. Tantretti, who became not just my psychologist, but a friend. He went back to that administration course I had abandoned 30 years ago, now online, accessible, possible, reconnected with Eduardo, the gentleman I had dismissed because of Gabriel. He discovered, to my surprise and joy, that he had never married, and that he welcomed me back into his life with a patience and affection that I didn't know I deserved. He learned to set boundaries. He learned to set boundaries. He learned that self-love is not selfishness. He learned that you can love someone deeply and still refuse to be diminished by that love. Gabriel sent me a message on my birthday 3 months later. Happy birthday, Mom. Simply emotionless, routine. He thanked him politely and didn't prolong the conversation, not because I didn't love him, but because I had learned that love without respect is just a beautiful empty word. It was Mariana who told me 6 months after our meeting at the coffee shop. She had heard gossip through her caterer friend. Apparently, Gabriel and Fernanda were facing serious problems. The company where Gabriel worked went through a restructuring and it was laid off. Suddenly, the couple who lived a life of luxury, largely funded by Miss Celia's generous support, found themselves in trouble. And it was at that moment that the true face of the real mother appeared. According to the report, when Gabriel asked Miss Celia for financial help to pay some bills while he was looking for a new job, she said that she couldn't support their lifestyle forever and that it was time for them to be responsible adults. The woman, who posted photo after photo, celebrating the son of her heart, disappeared when the wallet closed. The irony was not lost on me, but it didn't bring me joy, just deep sadness. Gabriel tried to call me several times during that period. I answered on the 3rd attempt. His voice was broken, desperate. Mom, he messed everything up, didn't he? He sighed. Gabriel, why are you calling me now? Because you were always there when I needed you. And now you need me again, I concluded. But where were you when I needed you? When I begged for a little attention, recognition, love. I started crying on the other end of the line. I was an idiot. I was ungrateful. I was a terrible son. Yes, you were. I agreed. And the brutal honesty of my words seemed to shock him. But you weren't born that way, Gabriel. You were shaped by the situation, by toxic influences, by your own choices too. Fernanda wants to break up, I confessed between sobs. She said that if I don't have the same standard of living anymore, she doesn't see a future in the marriage. And Miss Celia, Mom, she said, that was a project that didn't work out. His pain was palpable, but I couldn't simply erase months of humiliation and rejection. And what do you want from me now, Gabriel? For me to say that everything is okay? For me to open my arms and pretend nothing happened? I need my mom, he said, his voice as small as when he was a child. I closed my eyes, feeling the tears run down. Gabriel, I will always be your mother, but I'm not going to be that woman who completely erases herself for you anymore. If you want to rebuild our relationship, you're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to publicly acknowledge what you did. You're going to have to prove with actions, not just words, that you understand the magnitude of the pain you caused. I'll do anything, he promised. Then start by posting a photo of me on your social media. A real photo with a real caption acknowledging who has really been by your side all along. Start by publicly apologizing for what you did. Start by pursuing the therapy you obviously need. And then maybe we can talk about rebuilding something. I will do it today. Gabriel, I said, more softly now. I love you. I will always love you. But love doesn't mean being a doormat. It means wanting the best for someone, even when that includes setting boundaries and demanding respect. He thanked me, still crying, and we hung up. 2 hours later, he received notifications. Gabriel had posted a photo of us from when he graduated from college with a long caption. I've spent the last few years making one of the biggest mistakes of my life, abandoning and disrespecting the woman who sacrificed everything for me. My mother, Helena, worked 2 jobs for years, sold her only possessions, gave up her dreams so that I could have mine. And he, blinded by ambition and the influence of toxic people, treated her as if she were a nuisance. He erased her. He replaced her. He allowed them to rewrite her story as if she were less than she is, an extraordinary, strong, and loving woman. Mom, I know words can't repay what I did, but I'm here, publicly, asking for your forgiveness and acknowledging your worth. You are my true mother. Always have been, and I was a fool for forgetting that. I love you. The comments started to appear. Some were supportive, others harshly criticized Gabriel. Fernanda commented something sharp about airing dirty laundry in public and then deleted her profile. Donna Celia simply disappeared from his posts. But what mattered most was Gabriel's private message. A few days later, I've booked therapy. First session is next week. And Mom, thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you. The rebuilding was slow, very slow. Gabriel started visiting me regularly, always bringing something simple, a cake, flowers, sometimes just his presence. We talked, sometimes about light things, sometimes about the deep wounds. I met Eduardo, and to my surprise, the two got along well. Fernanda did indeed file for divorce, and Gabriel, although hurt, recognized that the marriage was always superficial, built on fragile foundations of status and appearance. He found a new job, simpler, with a lower salary, but where he felt valued. He learned to live more humbly, and more importantly, he learned that a person's worth is not in how much money they have or what social circle they frequent, but in their character, their integrity, and their ability to love genuinely. The throbbing pain I felt that day, I feel something different now. Compassion. For who? Oisen. For that broken woman who didn't yet know how strong she was. On gratitude for the journey that brought me here, with all its thorns and roses. Because it was that pain that taught me to value myself. It was that rejection that forced me to build an identity beyond just Gabriel's mom. It was that abandonment that showed me I can survive, and more than that, thrive, even when my greatest fear comes true. Gabriel no longer defines me. Is an important part of my life, a part I love deeply, but is not the center of my universe. I am the center of my own universe. And that simply but revolutionary discovery changed everything. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's this: you are enough. You have always been enough. And anyone who makes you feel otherwise is revealing their own shortcomings, not yours. Don't accept crumbs. Don't accept being harassed. Don't accept conditional love disguised as a genuine relationship. You deserve to be seen, celebrated, respected, and loved with the same intensity that you love. And if you're not receiving that, don't be afraid to walk away, to set boundaries, to choose yourself. Because in the end, the only person who will be with you in every moment of your life is yourself. And that person deserves all the love, care, and respect you've been giving to everyone else. My name is Helena. I'm 57 years old. I'm a survivor of emotional obliteration. I'm stronger than I ever imagined I could be. And I am finally free. Free from the need for external approval. Free from the weight of unrecognized sacrifices. Free to live my life on my own terms. And you can be too. The adaptation notes, asterisk, Nam, Helena, is fine. As it seems, it is a common name that is used in the English language. Asterisk Gabriel. The name is already familiar and works perfectly in an English-speaking context. Asterisk, no significant changes were made to idioms or references because the message is fairly universal and easily understood by an English-speaking audience. The phrase thorns and roses is more commonly used than thorns and flowers in the US, UK. Asterisk, emotional obliteration sounds a bit more impactful than emotional apagamento. This version is now accurately translated and culturally appropriate for an English-speaking audience.